Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody's well. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. How's everybody doing? What you been up to? Who's been having a bit of hobby this weekend? Who's been playing games? Who's treated themselves to something new? Who's just had a weekend putting their feet up? Let me know what you've been up to, folks. Welcome back to another Monday Night Live. Let's have a look in the chat and see who we've got this evening. Tolmart, nice and early. Hello to you, fella. How you doing? Ice Moon is in as well. We've got Ortega. Hello in the catch-up, fella. Thank you for popping in. We've got Ian there as well, Lord Maiden. He says, what makes the perfect gaming store? That's a hard one. Let me get back to you when I found perfection. You don't need to find a perfection. You just need to know what you would like to see, what's perfect for you. So yeah, tonight's topic, amongst many things that we're going to chat about tonight, but the one I thought I would kind of kick off for a little bit of interaction, see what everybody wants to kind of sort of throw their thoughts in, is what makes the perfect gaming store. When we get to the chat and stuff, I'll show you kind of what's kind of sparked this off for me a little bit. But yeah, what if you could create a gaming store, money's no object kind of thing. And when I say money's no object, let's not say free toys and all that kind of stuff. But if somebody was going to kind of build the perfect gaming store, what would you like to see in it? What would make it the perfect gaming store? What gaming stores have you been to that you've kind of had a really good experience at, and why have you had a good experience? Which ones have you had a bad experience at, and what made them a bad experience? So that's what we'll be chatting about later. We've also got the kind of the gaming news from this week, a few things to chat about. I've got, if I can find my little my notes here, you know I always have notes. We've probably got probably about 3 or 4 things I want to kind of touch on tonight, but no doubt as the chat goes on, we'll find more things to chat about as well. Let's scrolling down the chat here, plenty of chat earlier on. Blizzards, good evening to you, matey boy. Scott Longworth, nice to see you as well. We have also got, as he scrolls, Tony Boothleiden, nice to see you. T-Dog, as your little avatar thing says there, nice to see you in, mate. I hope you're well. I hope you're well, rather, not wild. Hope you're well. Nigel Jones, good evening to you, mate. Hope you're doing good. Christian, hello, fella. How's you? Peter Nicholas says, hello, peeps. Am I late? Bliss said, right on time. So he said, right, I'll be back in 10. How very dare you, mate? How very dare you? We got Iron in. Howdy to you, sir. Hope you're well. Yoakum's in as well. Good evening, Yoakum. Saying hope everyone's doing well. He's building some dead zone terrain tonight, following my tips and tricks video. Thank you very much, mate. And he says if I get done with it, I'll continue painting the Morcrusher. Nice to have a little bit of a kind of a little bit of a change up, mate. We've got John Estlin as well. Nice to see you, matey. Glenn Griffin, good evening, sir. Deep Red, hail and well met to you too. Of course it would jump at that point. Ariel Sanchez, hello to you, mate. Glenn says, I want to talk about store shelving during this topic. In particular, how stores place their products. Interesting, mate. I mean, I've got some kind of insight into how stores stack shelves generally from a supermarket point of view. I do wonder if gaming stores have the same level of kind of sort of thought process or not. William Jones, good evening, mate. Nice to see you. It has been a while. Hope you're well. Night Haunter 666 says, OMG Dead Zone. Yes, the best game is back on the menu. Yeah, you might just see a certain little box there behind me. Ed Handley, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? Blizzard saying they're the funniest looking Rams helmets I've ever seen. Do you know what it is? I did an interview on Friday night. I recorded an interview. We'll chat about that later as well. And I took the helmets down and put a couple of game boxes up there, relating to the person that I was interviewing at the time. And then I didn't put the helmets back up there. That one helmet's facing me at the other side, the other one's over in the corner there. So I thought for today's stream, I'd put a couple of game boxes up. Everybody always comes onto this stream and goes, Rams? Why Rams helmets? Why like? So I thought tonight it's a gaming stream. We'll talk about games. We'll put some games up there. One week we'll probably put like bacon sandwiches and a pint of Guinness or something. Green Stuff Games, hello Josie, hope you're well. Austin Thornhill says hello from a rare rainy day in LA. A rainy day, but a rainy day on the back of a win, mate. That can't be too bad. Ian saying, did you get enough questions about them? I think I've just covered why they're down there. They will return. Don't you worry about that. Marcus is in as well. Said he's working on his Halloween diorama and a Necron Silent King painting commission. Very nice. Tony Howell, evening to you as well, sir. Phil Campbell, hello to you. Mark saying, I woke up almost on time. I saw it, and you did have an earlier comment, mate, which is dropped off on the laptop screen here, saying that you were feeling a bit tired tonight. Jill, good evening to you. It says, just in from work, ready for the stream of lovely people. Oh, how very kind. Tasty Brain Drain, good evening to you as well, mate. Good morning, VJ. Said he's back from his run and he's going to hit the shower. John says, get bacon sandwiches and a table or two would be perfect for a gaming store. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to a gaming store with bacon sandwiches. I'm sure that'll crop up at some point. Colin Wakeling, good evening, mate. How are you? Iron saying, table space is pretty key. Well-tempered stuff is also essential. Air conditioning in my state. Yeah, we'll come on to aircon because it's not something that we really need that much in the UK. However, it kind of sparked the debate earlier on this week. Let's have a little look. Mark's saying there, space, a lot of small, crammed with tables. Yeah, we'll come on to that stuff about space and stuff as well in a bit. Mark is saying, afternoon, Nerd Nation. Peter Kuhlman, good evening, mate. He said he's going to bed soon. Those early shifts. Sleep well, mate. Enjoy work, and no doubt we'll catch up soon. Wayne Hayward, good evening to you. Jacob said, if his FLJS sold bacon sandwiches, I'd be out of excuses to leave. I think I'd be out of money, mate, if that was the case. Jez Hunt, hello, fella. How you doing? Hello, Derek Hodge as well. Tasty Brindrin says, I like the game boxes. They're a nice touch. I used to always have game boxes behind me when I did my streams. But I always kind of felt like I didn't want, because I've obviously got quite a few sort of games that I've accumulated over the years and stuff that I've bought in the past and that people have sent me and things. I didn't want it to look like it was kind of like flaunting it, like kind of like, oh, look at everything I've got kind of thing. I'm not a very like showy person type thing. So I always felt a bit like, at first when I first did it, it was like, oh, well, it's a gaming channel, I'll have all my games there. But then the longer it went on, it was a bit like, I feel a bit uncomfortable with all that kind of stuff just lying around behind me. So yeah. Let's have a little look. Lord Man saying it's not the same without the Rams helmets. They'll be back, mate. Don't you worry about that. Luke Pryor, good evening, mate. How are you? He says, I heard you were all having a natter. We've just been waiting for you, mate. We thought you'd be along at some point. Peter says, bacon sandwiches and Guinness. Are you mad? You'll get killed in the rush. Kath Smith, good evening, Kath. Says, got Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion for our birthday. Very nice. I've not played it, but I've heard good things about it. Luke says he set up a board game cafe for Zatu, so he has opinions. Blaze says, wow, Weird support is on point. I already got my replacement Fluffnutter on its way. Weird's always been pretty good with that kind of stuff in my experience. Deep Red says, like number 3. Like number 23. 23 likes and 56 folks. I'm sure we can squeeze a few more likes out of you lot. Wring you dry of likes. Jess said he's a huge fan of Graham's workshop over in Gateshead, full to the rafters with second-hand mini madness. Plus he's made a right little gold mine. Yeah, it helps if it's your mate, doesn't it, mate? So, yes. So, yeah, it's been a busy few days, really. So, Friday I worked all day Friday, picked the little one up, and then I recorded an interview about, what time did I do it? Was it 7 o'clock? Yeah, I think it was late on. I think it was about 6 or 7. Oh, no, it was 7 o'clock I did it. 7 o'clock till about 8 o'clock Friday night, recorded the interview. And then Saturday, spent the day painting terrain, ready for something I was recording today. Sunday was editing video that I'd been doing on Friday. So I've kind of worked all weekend. Today I was in here from 8 o'clock this morning. I've been recording all day. I finished about 4 o'clock, kind of had my dinner tonight, came back in, set up for tonight. So it's been a busy old day. It's been a busy old few days. I don't really kind of know where I'm coming or going at the minute, but busy is good. You know what they say about idle hands and all that kind of stuff. Let's have a little look here. Where are we up to? James Arm, good evening to you, mate. Says, hope you had a good weekend. As I've just said, mate, I kind of worked pretty much all weekend. Peter says, when you replace the Rams helmets, I'll be sure to ask you about them again. Yeah, I'm sure you will, mate, you and everyone else. Chuck and Deb Taylor, good evening. Says, just lunch here and bacon sarnies, you bet. Nice one. Ian saying, you work all day for some old man, sweating bring you back. Cass Smith says, go to the Sanctuary in Sutton in Ashfield. Friendly ace gaming tables, amazing mahooks of donuts and coffee. Coffee and donuts, you cannot whack it, can you? Jill says, we don't have anyone that does second hand here that I know. I wish we did. Best game store I've been to was a cafe in Edinburgh. Small, but just really lovely stuff. Great food and nice atmosphere. Second hand stuff is a funny thing. I guess it's like, it's almost got a different kind of sort of audience, I suppose. I've never really been one kind of to shop for like second-hand stuff, and that's not me being kind of snobby, if you like. It's just part of the enjoyment for me is kind of going like, sort of buying something, and as much as I don't always enjoy the build process, I do like to kind of feel like I've done it myself a bit, I think. Luke says, I'm still hanging from drinking at a wedding. The venue is Lancaster Brewery. That'll do it, mate. Tony says he recently got made assistant manager at the store where he works, so we might be able to offer a bit of insight. I think it definitely will offer a bit of insight, mate. Yeah, Jez saying it's like a job or something. Yeah, it's funny, mate. Like you kind of, it's the one thing I'd say is when you and you know this as well, when you work for yourself, there is no kind of like 9 till 5. You don't really know when to stop, do you? Luke says I don't really drink anymore, but Lancaster is a bloody good drinking town. Nice one. I'm going to try and pronounce this now. Saint Blade, is it? Says, good evening. Try out some contrast paints, painting oak and iron ships. I like the contrast paints, mate. Thank you for joining the chat, by the way, as well. Yeah, let me know how they go. Jill says, I get that, but for those of us on the very limited budget, cheaper stuff I can strip and paint is good. Yeah, I do get that. I just, my experience of kind of second-hand stuff is it's generally, when I've seen it, it's generally not been in particularly good condition. And actually the amount of time and effort that it takes to try and rescue it. If you've got plenty of time on your hands, it's kind of fine, but sometimes it's worth paying a little bit more just to kind of, you know, especially with discounts and stuff. In my experience anyway, I'm not saying it's all been like that. And yeah, like Luke's saying they're great on small ships and stuff. Right, I think that's as good a time as any. We'll crack on and we'll have a little chat about the main topic tonight. So yes, we're talking about what do you think would sort of constitute the perfect gaming store? And the reason this is kind of cropped up is I saw some pictures online a while ago. Firestorm Games down in Cardiff had just opened up a new store and it looked mightily impressive. And I've got some photos here that I'll kind of show you it. And was it last weekend? Maybe weekend before? It was the Kings of War Clash of Kings tournament where there was roughly about 100 folks playing in that event, and there was kind of like a mixture of reviews of the place, if you like. Now we might as well start with, I'll show you some photographs of the place. So as you can see, this is no small gaming store down in Cardiff. Firestorm have been around for a while. It's not like they're a new place, but they've obviously built up their business to be able to expand to this, and I think, if I'm remembering right, when somebody told me this used to be a car showroom. So as you can imagine, it's kind of a nice big building, plenty of light coming in there as well, and it looks pretty modern. So inside the place, these are some of the photographs from the Kings of War event. Thank you to Nick Williams who put these photographs on Twitter. These are the ones that I'm using. You can see kind of it's very light and it's very airy. There's plenty of space around the tables, especially kind of after COVID times as well. I think there's an acceptance that we need more kind of space between tables. In the past, I've been to events where you're literally kind of crammed in and squeezed in, and there's not even enough space for you to stand and play your game without your backside rubbing against the backside of somebody behind you on the table. So it's quite nice to see the amount of space around this place. This table here actually was the table that they were live streaming from. You can see the rig over the top here with the camera and stuff on it, and then obviously the other stuff dotted about. But yeah, nice big airy spaces. This is a shot from the upstairs looking down, so this gives you an idea of what the downstairs looks like. And on first inspection, first thoughts, I thought, this looks like a really, really nice kind of gaming place. This is exactly the kind of place I would love to have on my doorstep type thing. Loads of space, like this kind of space in here for people coming in doing their shopping. They're not getting on top of people on the tables. There's doors to open, get a bit of air in there as well. And this is the kind of looking the other way as well. This is obviously the store part. A nice big range of Kings of War stuff here. The photograph that was on the thumbnail tonight for Blizz there with the very nicely stocked Malifaux range was this store as well. So you can kind of see it's a nice big airy place. They have a cafe upstairs as well. In fact, if I think I got these pictures from their Twitter page. So if I scroll down, I'm sure they had some other photographs as well from there. Here's some when they first opened. This is obviously some of the shelving and the stocks. Here's the tables with nobody surrounding, so you can kind of see the amount of space there is. Looking rather nice. And here's and then there's like a kind of like a cafe area upstairs with coffee machine and kind of get some food and stuff as well. So yeah, so that was kind of what spotted off. Some of the things and some of the issues that people had was that the place was really, really hot. It was kind of unseasonably warm. The air conditioning had packed in. It had broken down the day before. They hadn't been able to get it repaired in time. The guy was coming back on the Monday after that weekend to repair it. So it was a little bit warm. Some of the things that people kind of had some concerns about was the price of things like tea and coffee. They thought were quite expensive. Meals and stuff like that. They had food service, but it seemed to take quite a long time to get served. And whilst the food tasted quite nice, there was quite long. The menu itself wasn't sort of particularly kind of healthy. It was burgers and chips, pretty much kind of thing, as far as I understand. So I kind of it got me thinking about if a place like that looks as kind of as good as this. Still has people kind of saying, oh, well, this is not very good and that's not very good. What actually constitutes the perfect gaming store? So I'm kind of opening it up to you now, folks. If you kind of type at BlackJack Legacy when you're in the chat, let me know what you think. What would you like to see? What experiences have you had that kind of that you've left a place and think, you know what it is, that's really good. I'd quite like to open my own gaming store, my own store and gaming space and event space and stuff like that. And I've got thoughts of the things that I think it needs to have, not necessarily to make it a successful business. That's one thing, but just what would constitute the kind of the perfect space? Because the other place I always hear good things about is this place, and this is Bad Moon Cafe. Now, randomly, Bad Moon Cafe their website doesn't really have any many pictures of the place. However, here we have another place that looks fantastic. As you can see, lots of nice, light, airy spaces, plenty of space between tables. They've obviously got like a nice selection of food, which is not something that you always see. This looks kind of, I hasten to say healthy, as I can see loads of chocolate bars here, packets of crisps and some pastries. But there's a nice range of stuff there as well as the like kind of the menu for the food. You can see obviously when it's plenty of board games being played in this particular picture. This is like the cafe area or the cafe area itself. Obviously, you've got people bringing in families as well. It seems like a nice welcoming place. Here it is during more of like an event weekend type thing. Plenty of people playing on the tables. Looks like there's plenty of space. Sort of trays underneath the tables as well for putting bags and putting your dead pile, that kind of stuff on. Here it seems like there's people kind of sitting working, using it as a bit of a hangout place. The cafe looks nice. The store looks really nicely stocked. And I hear a lot about Bad Moon Cafe and about how nice it is, although I've never actually been myself. So I've got no kind of reference for the place, shall we say. So yeah, let's have a look in the chat, see what people are saying, have a little look. Where are we up to here? Nick McConchy, hello to you, mate. How you doing? He says, what makes the perfect gaming store? One that hasn't been closed by the government to stop the sniffles. It needs to be open. I guess that's probably only one good thing, mate. Yeah. James Bray, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? Bobby Clark, he said he went to Firestorm Cardiff a few weeks back. It's sizable. Yeah, it does look pretty impressive, mate. Tony says, I avoid people like the plague and have done for about 15 years. So for me, a friendly local gaming store that's got an interactive online presence and a friendly personal touch that makes you feel welcomed and appreciated. I think that's the thing, is that a friendly local gaming store doesn't actually always have to be a place to attend. It can also be the kind of like a community hub as well. Like you say, if you're not someone that wants to kind of attend a particular store, if you're not really into the gaming side of things, you still kind of want to feel part of a community. And if they have some kind of online presence, it can only help that, I suppose. Jess says, yeah, it's a pretty big space. It's huge, mate. It's a huge space. James is saying a booze license. Firestorm has a booze license as well. Yeah, there's quite a few kind of gaming places have an alcohol license, to be fair. Josie says the old Firestorm used to be my local. If the new place is half as good as the old one, it's a really good shop. Yeah, it's I think the old one. I think one of the things I kind of heard was the old one felt a little more. A little more cozy, shall I say? Like, is it almost like, are we as gamers, do we want a little bit of kind of grunge to our places when it's all nice and light and airy and looks like kind of some kind of hipster cafe? Is that a step too far for us? Kyle Rowan, how are you doing, mate? He says, any game store that stocks games I work on is a good store to me. Well, this one certainly did. I think you'll see from the thumbnail it had a good stock of your stuff. Christian sharing the link there for Patreon. Thank you very much, mate. I would love to get 3 more Patreons if we can, because as I said before, I kind of took a little bit of time off while I hadn't been too well and been in hospital and stuff, and we've dipped just below the 100 Patreons mark. I would love to get back to 100 Patreons. It's nice to have that kind of number. So yeah, if anybody is considering it, $2 a month gets you access to the private Discord, and then there's other bonuses for pledging slightly more as well. Peter said he's bought stuff from Firestorm online in the past. Yeah, they've got quite an online presence, mate. And obviously, as you can see from the pictures, they've obviously got good stock as well. Luke says, a delay in food sounds like teething problems. Give them time to get in the swing of things. I think it was more a case of the complaint. I say complaints in a very kind of broad term, but I think the concerns or the feedback, shall we say, was more about... they took everyone's orders in advance of the end of the round, if you like. So the idea was they didn't have a big queue of people just waiting to kind of to order food, but then they didn't start cooking the food until the round ended. So then what happened was there was the end of the round and everybody was kind of standing around waiting for the food to start to be made. So again, I think it's just a bit of a teething problem type thing, like you say, but it's not the first event they'd ran. They'd ran a big event as well, kind of a few weeks beforehand or a week beforehand. So maybe it's just, training and that kind of stuff. Chuck and Deb Taylor says, nice wide open store space is great. I personally avoid backside rubbing on game night. I think this is kind of one of those things. So, having space, let's take the COVID side, the COVID times and things out of it. Having space was always a premium back in the day as well, when we weren't so worried about being close to people. How can I phrase that? When there was no requirements to have a little bit of breathing room next to people. I think these stores generally they don't make a lot of money. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody's kind of getting rich, I don't think, having gaming stores, and you try to squeeze as many tables as possible in there. So I think what tends to happen is you either have a small space and you cram it full of tables in the past, or you have some nice kind of airy space, but you basically it's not kind of paying back its square footage, if you like. Let's say it's kind of, you can only get 2 tables in rather than 3. You know, 50% of your kind of revenue from tables goes out of the window, doesn't it? Fiji's back. Jess says, you can't please everyone. I guess you can't, mate. Peter says, maybe staffing is suffering from COVID issues. It's a brand new place, mate. I'm sure, like I say, there were more concerns and stuff like that. But I'm sure it was just more to do with some teething issues, I think. Mark says, used to go to Cardiff store before they moved. Every time I went home was always a nice experience. I think I've mentioned this on last week's stream, or maybe the week before. Cardiff is an awful place to get to from the northeast of England. The public transport to get there is pretty garbage. So unfortunately, I've never been to Firestorm Games, either the old one or the new one yet. I'd like to kind of have a bit of a tour around and see some of these kind of friendly local gaming stores, and almost do kind of like reviews of them, if you like, and put some of the kind of the smaller ones on the map and tell people about them. So who knows, once next year kind of comes, and maybe do a bit more travelling and stuff. Ed says people will always whinge about something. To be fair, mate, I don't think it was technically a whinge as such. It was more to do with like I think the heat was the big killer. To be fair, I think if the aircon hadn't been broken, I think people wouldn't have had such a bad time. It was unseasonably warm as well at the same time. There was some concerns again. There was some feedback about its location, about having to walk to kind of the city centre with bags and things like that. And I didn't experience it myself, so I'm only kind of reading second-hand reviews and reports and stuff. But I guess that these are all the things kind of like if you're looking for the perfect gaming store, like when I've been considering opening a gaming store, location is always the number one thing that I've started with. With as in, it needs to be close to public transport. If you're going to put on gaming events, it needs to be close to somewhere where people can stay. The last thing you want is to be in the middle of nowhere, and then everyone has to get like taxis for 20 minutes to a hotel somewhere or a bed and breakfast somewhere. So location for public transport, plenty of parking, all those kind of things, you don't notice them until they're not there. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Steamforged Games, who used to make Guild Ball, they make Resident Evil and God Tier. Where their factory is, if you like, where their offices are, they have a really nice gaming space. And it's a lovely place to play in, really nice kind of area, like kind of sort of open area, plenty of tables, nice little store. But it's on an industrial estate, and the problem with it is there's no food places close by. There's no kind of shops to buy anything for lunch. There's no pub to go and kind of have a beer after the game. There's no hotels in kind of close distance. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere a little bit. Mantic Games is kind of the same as well to a certain extent. So for all it's their offices, and they've obviously it's cheaper office space, if you like, if it's on like an industrial complex type thing. But they're not great for kind of for local amenities and things. Michael Cowan, good evening to you, mate. James is saying, he said a friendly, knowledgeable staff is number one in my book. I guess it's a bit of a mixed bag that sometimes, isn't it? You do want obviously friendly staff 100%, but I think friendly staff is a given really. It doesn't matter whether it's a clothes shop, if it's a cafe selling sort of pastries or anything. If it's a coffee shop, you want friendly staff at the end of the day. The knowledgeable thing, I guess it depends on what you're looking for, doesn't it? Because are you just looking for a bit of a conversation? Are you looking for a bit of a chat? Are you actually looking for sort of like information? Because some people, the last thing that they want is to interact with the staff. They want to just get in there, buy their stuff and get out. So I think it's a balancing act with that kind of stuff, isn't it? Ian says, I think it would have to be plenty of space, staff that are friendly, humans being nice to each other. It accommodates for my neurodiversity, BlackJack merch, and a friendly atmosphere. Well, if I open a store, mate, it will definitely have BlackJack merch in. But yeah, I think some of those things, like customer service and stuff, is almost, it should be a given, shouldn't it? I don't believe anybody opens a store and then says, well, I'm just going to, people will have to just kind of sort of take me as they find me. If I'm having a bad day, screw them kind of thing. I don't think anybody opens a store intending to be a grumpy bugger. So some of those things, I know not everywhere has them, but I do wonder how much of that is just kind of sort of knocked out of people over time, if you like. Glenn Griffin says, I feel that maybe it's tricky to try and run 2-3 different types of businesses under the same roof. You might know how to run a game store, but not a cafe and restaurant. I think the problem is, mate, is and this is where it becomes difficult, and it's one of the reasons why I've never taken the plunge yet. You can't just run a gaming store on its own, because you will not make enough money to kind of keep it open. You have to you have to sort of have other forms of income as well, and you'd be surprised how much kind of tea and coffee and sort of ready-made sandwiches or kind of sort of pot noodles or toasties or something like that, you'd be surprised how much extra revenue that brings in. So I think you almost have to have enough staff to kind of cope with having that multifaceted business these days. And unfortunately, if you're just starting out, you need to be able to kind of roll with the punches a little bit in the early days and build up a bit of a following. And I think that's one of the reasons why location is important, because you do need to pick up some kind of local businesses. Like if you're on somewhere where there's lots of other businesses, maybe they'll come to you just to have their lunch. Never mind use you as a gaming store. So during the day when people are not necessarily in gaming, you might be doing all right with kind of sort of drop-ins for coffees. And like as an example, there's a geek retreat in Sunderland, not a million miles away from me, and on their Facebook page, on their on their Instagram page, they quite often paste a lot of photos of like what's kind of happening, their activities, the stuff that's doing during the day. And one of the things I've noticed is they have like sort of Monday, Tuesday mornings or something, they have like kind of like mother and toddler group type things coming in and having a cup of coffee and sort of using their tables, and the kids are doing some arts and crafts and things like that. And I think you do have to sort of diversify and have a bit of a multi-stream business these days. The problem is you can't do it as a kind of like as a one-man band type thing. Where are we up to here? Luke said something and then it moved off my screen. Let's find it. There we go. He said, I think they're finding the staff that get the delicate balance of knowing when a customer wants to talk to you and when they don't, understanding upselling in a non-aggressive manner. Yeah, 100%, mate. That sums up really what I was trying to say. Hello, Stan, by the way. Stan says, with the aircon, we got exactly the same story when we were there at the end of September for the Warhammer Fantasy Tournament. By Game 3 on the Saturday, it was a blast furnace. Oh, interesting, mate. I hadn't realised it was an issue for the fantasy tournament as well. So maybe it wasn't just kind of unlucky. Jez says, friendly staff who know their stuff, doesn't smell of gamer fug. That's about it. I think these days, in order to compete, because at the end of the day, more people are willing to support a local gaming store as long as the gaming store is worth supporting. And what I mean by that is it almost has to be a bit of a destination. There's got to be a reason why you want to go and play there, or if you're not playing there's got to be a reason why you want to be part of that community thing. James says, honestly, my local store has a great range and big tables, but the biggest issue I have is that the staff are not great at customer service unless you're an everyday regular. That's huge, mate, to be honest. I've experienced that myself. I did a video a long time ago about my not-so-friendly local gaming store. And it was exactly that kind of thing. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I walked in and I was initially instantly dismissed and just kind of like sort of ignored. And then I was followed around the shop like I was going to be kind of like watching me like as if I was going to steal something. And it's like, you're not like... you ain't got a lot of kind of custom coming in here. The least you could do is kind of say hello and say, can I help you, kind of thing. It's weird, isn't it? John says he really enjoyed his trip to Entoyment in Poole. Great selection and knowledgeable staff, bright and airy, although I do like post-apocalyptic vibe. I must admit, I've not even seen any images of that. I'll have to check that place out. Jill says the majority of people who moan about menu size and variety have no idea how razor-thin margins are in cafes. Yeah, I get that, and I do understand it. But I think what it was, it was the fact that the options on the menu, and I guess you kind of cater to the mass market type thing. But I think if you're there for 2 days of a tournament and your only options is kind of burgers and hot dogs, it can probably get a bit samey. It's okay if you just go and kind of like for a 1-day event or something, but if you're there for 2 days, especially when the place kind of sells drinks and stuff and people are going to stay there into the evening, it can get a little bit samey. And it might be the fact that actually when places do have cafes and they serve food, they're obviously not going to be very keen about you ringing in a kind of a Domino's pizza or something like that. So that's when it starts to become a little bit kind of restrictive at times, I think. I don't know if that was the case here. Chav Hunter, good evening. I hope you're well. Tony says, looking at those pictures, they do look really nice, but the kind of premise doesn't come cheap. So when you pay maybe £3 for a cuppa, in reality, you're helping keep the lights on. Yeah, there is that. And I think people don't necessarily kind of put two and two together with things like that. I think there's a kind of like a coffee machine type thing where you obviously kind of press the buttons and help yourself as well, which obviously helps with things like staff costs. It also comes with a pretty penny kind of like somebody will be running that and coming out and servicing it and all that kind of thing. It's not quite the same as boiling a kettle and putting a tea bag in. So yeah, all those things don't come cheap. And I think what I found was from reading through the reviews and the comments was it depends upon where you come from. Like if you game at a place, some places give you free tea and coffee kind of thing. It's because they are literally boiling a kettle and just having a box of tea bags kind of thing. Other places, obviously, like this place it's a cafe and it's a business, and I think people have to kind of expect that. James says, I've heard the staff using some embarrassing playground insults about people and companies that really put me off. It's funny that some folks either just don't understand how to run a business, or they're not managed properly by whoever owns the business, and they let their staff get away with just kind of being blatantly like not very nice in front of people. It's just you should never be like that in front of customers. Jill says, adding people staying on tables for hours but not buying much. It's a very difficult balance for them to make. I think it depends upon the stores as well. Some stores charge you for the tables. They'll charge kind of by the hour, or they'll kind of they'll have some kind of loyalty scheme where if you buy sort of so much sort of in value, you get free table time. So I think you don't mind people staying on the tables if they are either paying to use the tables or they're supporting the wider business as well. And again, if you've got a small place and somebody comes in, doesn't buy anything, pays the kind of, let's say it's £5 for the table for the evening, they pay the £5, they play all night, they don't buy a drink, they don't buy any food, they don't buy their miniatures from there, they buy everything from the cheapest kind of discounter online, that doesn't support it. And if it's a small place, they've maybe taken up the only kind of table or one of the only tables in the place. It's a hard business to do. Chavonta says, it seems like COVID made lots of gaming stores close or the owners went bankrupt. I've heard of a few, but I get the impression that the few that went under, certainly kind of UK based, were kind of on the breadline to start with. Maybe their business wasn't in a great shape before COVID, because actually sales of kind of hobby stuff were pretty good through lockdown and stuff like that. So I think some stores sort of did okay through it, to be fair. But yeah, I think a lot of stores basically probably weren't in a great shape to start with, to be fair. Let's have a little look here. James is saying small menus are generally a good thing in most places. It means fresher food and better margins. You would hope so, mate, wouldn't you? Peter Cummins says, I'm out. Hope an early night now has me fresher on Wednesday. No worries, mate. Take care. Marcus is saying 1 space, 2 friendly and knowledgeable staff, 3 events, 4 private rooms for RPGs. The problem with RPGs, and I've seen this before, is that RPGs do not really generate a lot of income for gaming stores. Folks generally don't buy a lot of books. They don't they're certainly not buying kind of like a lot of miniatures. They're not buying kind of necessarily paints. And I think if, at the other end of the scale, card games make money hand over fist. So what you'll tend to find is stores really pushing card games, things like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that kind of stuff. And it's why a lot of these kind of Geek Retreat type places, which are a franchise, anybody can kind of sign up and have a Geek Retreat franchise. You see a lot of card games being played. And I think then what happens is it's everybody wants something different, don't they, when it comes to space. Debsworth, good evening. Deb, how are you doing? Greg Cherry, hello, mate. Says, I'm skeptical of any Yelp online reviews. Most people that review generally just like to bitch. There is an element of that. I mean, I definitely think you should kind of treat as you find. The chat I'm talking about from from Firestorm was purely in a thread in the in the Kings of War Fanatics group, and it was just people giving feedback. Really, they weren't really whinging so much. I've maybe made it sound a little bit more negative. They were more just kind of like, these were the really good bits, these were the really kind of like the bits that weren't quite so good. Chaffon says, I was searching all over London for a gaming store doing free RPG day this weekend, but nowhere was doing it this year. I think it was technically an American thing, mate. I think free RPG day was more an American thing this year. Andy Smith, hello mate, how are you doing? Dave Mackay, hello to you as well. He says, knowledgeable staff who can recommend games is always good. Yeah, I mean, aside from a gaming store, there's a gaming cafe in Newcastle. It's called Meeple Perk. I can't recommend it enough. Drew, who runs the place, with I think it's Rian, his partner. Really, really friendly folks. Really, really knowledgeable. If you ask them to recommend any games, they will certainly recommend them. If you're in the area, please do check them out. They're a small business that needs kind of support as well. Some lovely kind of coffees and cakes to choose from as well, and a massive range of board games to play. So yeah, check them out. But knowledgeable stuff. Especially if you're looking for a recommendation. I do wonder how many people look for recommendations when it comes to miniature gaming. I see it definitely as a board gaming thing. People ask for recommendations. Tony says revenue per square foot is hugely important, but it has to be balanced with making the customer feel comfortable. I agree. What I would say is, in that instance, it probably depends upon the size of the place, really. Because if you've got like a tiny place and it's the difference between having 2 tables or 3 tables, that could be a big difference over the course of a year. As opposed to kind of like a much bigger place where it's the difference between 20 tables and 22 tables, if you like. Mark says, one day we'll do a tour of the UK stores. I'm sure Channel 4 will pick it up. I'd love to do a bit of a tour around and kind of visit the bigger ones and visit some of the smaller ones and kind of, you know, even I don't know whether, maybe not reviews, maybe not the right word, but just kind of have a tour around and kind of, yeah, maybe review them, maybe rate them, kind of thing. Chaffon says a great board game store is in Watford called D20 Board Game Cafe. They do RPGs, board games. They have over 3,000 games you can play. Is it a particularly big space, mate? Is there a lot of tables in there? Do they kind of do food and stuff as well? Andrew Fairbanks, hello mate, good afternoon to you. Babalush says, on the topic of tables paying back square meters, my friendly little gaming store both started to take €5, €10 per reserved table for up to 4 areas. Is this already done in your area? Yeah, it's I would agree. It is done. So a local store, to me, they charge you for tables. I don't think they used to in the past, but they do now. However, the same store basically has like sort of like a discount system or like a loyalty system where you get like sort of, I think with every, you can almost get like a loyalty stamp, and if you get like a card stamp with, let's say, 10 table hires, you get like a voucher to spend in the store of a portion of that money back to kind of spend on stuff. So it's one way of them kind of encouraging you to keep coming back, because you think, well, I only need to visit 2 more times and I'll have £10 to spend in store or something like that. So I think it definitely already happens. Stan says, disagree with location. We got an Airbnb right between the city centre and the venue, 10 minutes walk either way. Some lads messed up and booked near the old venue, 20-minute taxi ride. Yeah, I think in the comments on the Kings of War Fanatics page, there was a mix of comments. Some people saying the walk was quite nice, it was a nice day out, it was nice to get some fresh air. Some people saying, well, you just jump in an Uber, it's not very far away. Others saying, oh, it was far too far away when I'm carrying all my miniature stuff and all this kind of thing. So you can't please everyone, but it's certainly a consideration if you were to open a brand new place. Dave says, or he did till that jumped when I scrolled up. Let's have a look and find that back. I know that some game stores I've gone into is like walking into a saloon in the Western. Everyone stopped talking and looked at me. I didn't spend anything. To be honest, I've experienced that, mate, from walking into a Games Workshop, where there's kind of like the local kind of clique. Maybe Saturday afternoon, there's all the regulars in, and when you walk in and they don't recognise you, it's like what who the hell's this? Why are they in my shop? Kind of thing. This is our place. This is where we play. Kind of thing. I don't think it's kind of it's not that uncommon, unfortunately. Christian sharing the link there for BlackJack Legacy t-shirts and hoodies. Thank you very much, mate. Marcus is saying to change to my first one. General code of conduct for customers and players on being at least a basic level of politeness. You shouldn't even need that. Like, and I do understand that, but like, people should just like treat each other nicely. I can't even believe that you would have to put that in writing. I know some places do. I know Warhammer World, for example, had to put something in place recently, but I find it strange that that's even a thing that we have to do these days. Excuse me. Ed says, I knew a friendly local gaming store that lost a third of their income when a Subway opened up next door. I can imagine, mate. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sort of if you ever wonder why so many pubs in the UK kind of sell food, it's because, like, basically the days of people just spending their days in a pub, kind of like the way they used to back in the kind of 70s and stuff, completely changed. And a lot of pubs now basically stay open purely based upon kind of the tea and coffee during the day, and sort of selling breakfasts and selling kind of lunch menus and things. Food, you'd be surprised how much food can make a big difference to an income. Mark says, I'd love to run a board game store, but I can't see how to make it viable. It's funny, mate. I think one thing I think is you have to have an online presence. You physically won't ever get enough door-to-door kind of sales of people just coming in from your local area to make it viable. I think you have to have an online presence. And a lot of what you have to do is purely by volume. You then have to discount your stuff to match kind of everybody else online. But I think if you can make the store a destination venue, a place where people want to come to, they look forward to going. There's one store down south, and I forget what it is. It's like a board game cafe type place. But they have like a cocktail night and stuff like that, and they do pizzas and that type of stuff. And I've seen it. It's used almost like it's like a place where people go on a Friday night and they'll go and they'll kind of order pizza or something. They'll sit and have some drinks, have some cocktails, and they'll sit and play some kind of board games as a group. And I think some places can generate that kind of destination sort of feel to the place. Bobby Clark says, definite thumbs up for Firestorm in Cardiff. Good selection of product, ample parking, other food nearby. I was there for a Cult of Paint course. Aircon was fine when I went recently. Might have been fixed now, mate. Chav Hunter says, have you ever heard of the Bad Moon Cafe in London? Great wargaming shop. I literally showed some pictures of it earlier on, mate. I was just talking about it earlier. I've never been, but I've always heard it's an example of a nice place, if you like. Ian says, I had a similar experience. Went to a friendly local gaming store in another major town. Went around but didn't see where they were playing games. Had lunch and went back and finally noticed where to go. It wasn't clear. Yeah, I kind of always find it strange. People are running a business and then don't make it obvious kind of thing. Glenn says, I do like the grunge of an old style store. I remember back in the 90s, Game and Forbidden Planet, for example, were really dark stores. Nowadays, the aesthetic for stores are a bit too surgical. I think it's probably due to the fact, mate, that I think the old style kind of sort of nerd dungeon type places have a stigma. Like, they're not particularly inviting to new people. There's an idea that you're going into a very kind of cliquey kind of sort of place where you're not made to feel very welcome. If a game store feels kind of light and airy and feels a bit more welcoming, I suppose you're opening yourself up to a wider audience. It's like Forbidden Planet in Newcastle. The one in Newcastle is quite a big one, and I think I'm right in saying it's the biggest Forbidden Planet in the UK outside of London. And it's all kind of white tiled floors and white walls, and it's all kind of like sort of it feels like any other kind of nice shopping experience type thing. John says, good evening, John. He says, I realise their business practice isn't always great, but I've come to say my local GW store are great. Friendly, capable of having a normal conversation, and lots of online painting comps. I've heard a lot of people who kind of really rate their GW stores, and I think things have changed over time. I think the fact that they don't have so many people playing in store anymore. I think they've stopped being like a youth club, or like if you like on a Saturday where it's just kind of like full of people come to hang out and not really spend any money. I think a lot of that stopped really, and they are relying a lot more on like sort of Facebook communities and things like that. My experience with kind of a GW store not being very nice was quite some years ago now. Blizzard says, one of my most negative experiences was at GW grand opening. I was made to feel very unwelcome and totally snubbed. So a welcoming but not hard sell staff is a must. Doug Schumann, good evening, Doug. How are you doing? He says, how many stores in the UK do wargaming and collectible card games? I'm US based. I would say that there are a lot less stores in the UK than there is in the US, and I think part of that is in the UK, our probably gaming culture is to run gaming clubs. And those gaming clubs will be at like sort of scout huts. They'll be in church halls. They'll be in community centres. They might be in local pubs in a room upstairs. And they tend to be run by a group of kind of like-minded gamers who basically rent a place, charge kind of £3, £4, £5 for the night to come along and kind of play games and stuff. So our culture in the UK, if you like, when it comes to gaming, is much more community based as opposed to organized by a store. And I think that's almost like a double-edged sword. It's like it's sprung up like that because there's not a lot of stores, and then there's not a lot of stores because there's not the returns on having a nice big store like this one in at Firestorm Games, where lots of people come and use the space, kind of thing. So the ones that do manage to kind of to build up like a nice little community around them, 100% they deserve to be kind of supported. Glenn saying, yeah, his definitely focuses on card games. Tony says his local game store frequently gets featured on the local news for their community support and involvement. They run parent and little's day events. I think you have to, mate, don't you? You've got, like, you have to try and kind of make yourself part of the community, I think. I think it's important. Jason says, I hate walking into a new shop and find it's full of Magic, Pokemon. It's because it generally, the amount of stores that stay open on the basis of selling Magic and Pokemon cards is huge, mate. Black Dice Gaming, good evening. Says, I'm in the process of opening a very small stall type shop. I'm an online trader at the minute, hoping to get some tips from this video. Well, best of luck, Black Dice. Hope you manage to, hope your business is a success. I think it's just, I think what we haven't really kind of discovered is what, other than people kind of saying it should have plenty of space for tables, it needs to have friendly, knowledgeable staff. I don't think we've really kind of like sort of pinned down a reason as to why is one place better than another, for example. Like I've been to some gaming centres when I've been to tournaments and events and things where you walk in and you think, like, this is the kind of place that you kind of wipe your feet on the way out kind of thing. This is not a nice environment. You can see they've cut every corner under the sun to keep the cost down. It's not very nice. You go to use the toilets and you're thinking, oh, it's just filthy in here. It's not very nice. I've been to some awful places over the years, and then I've kind of been to the other end of the kind of the scale, if you like, where it's like, oh, actually, I'd be quite happy to kind of hang out here. Years ago, we used to go down to the kind of the War Machine UK Masters in Birmingham, and on the way down, we used to stop at Mansfield and go to, not the Sanctuary, what was it called? Maelstrom Games. I forget what it was called now. Maelstrom Games doesn't exist anymore now. But they had a gaming centre there that was like an old barn type thing. That when I say an old barn, it was a barn conversion and it was done out really nice inside, like stone barn and stuff. And that was a really nice place inside. I think there was a whole scandal about why it doesn't exist anymore now. But that's besides the point. The place itself was really nice. Jill says the several venues did free RPG this past weekend. Okay, I saw, I think, like for example, I think Mantic was supporting it, but they were only supporting it in the US, as an example. Ed says RPGs are high on a number of people involved, but low on generating money. Exactly, mate, yeah. He says that said, D&D Minis line is second only to 40k in the non-collectible minis. Yeah, I do see that, but I wonder, I think when it comes to sort of my experience from what I've seen with my own eyes, and that's only kind of, I can only go by what I've seen, not by sort of a wider pool, if you like, is it tends to be a group of people that kind of meet up. They've already spent their money, be it online, be it digitally, be it like they've already got all the D&D books or whatever, and they basically just they just want somewhere to hang out. Basically, they're looking for somewhere to sit at a table, and I don't see them spending huge sums of money like you say. John says, I do like the painting competitions at our place. Nice to try out different things. I also like not needing to have my own terrain. That's one of the beauties, mate. It's one of the reasons why I'm having to start to build up terrain myself for filming stuff and for doing stuff here, is because for years I used to go to a local club. The local club had terrain that everybody just kind of sort of used and looked after. We all kind of took turns at like painting it and touching it up, and the subs that we pay every week to go to the club would go back into like a fund, and they'd buy new terrain and things like that. So for years, right up until kind of I started playing at home more often, I never had any terrain. I used to take my army, take it to the club, and that was it basically. So it is nice. Like, you have to remember that when you're painting it, kind of when you're going to a store, like, support that store if they're nice, and you know, if they're friendly folks, and it's nice and warm there, and it's clean. And they've got nice tables, and they've like terrain to use. Support them, you know, like, otherwise they won't be there. Ed says they did a free RPG day at his local friendly game store. Nicholas Gray, hello mate. He said, not sure about food in game store. Battle Bunker sells pop, crisps and Mars bars, but I think that's quite sophisticated for Sunderland. I think when it's a place that does events, it would be nice to see a little bit more choice, even if it was just things like kind of things you can bang in a microwave and warm up kind of thing, or something like that, or even cold food that you don't need a food license for. It would be nice to see some kind of like some more things. But then the other side of it is, does the store kind of allow you to bring your own food in? Glenn says, just to mention my thoughts on store shelving. Yes, it annoys me when the layout of the product on shelves means I have to bend over or crouch down to see books, for example. I think, unfortunately, mate, I think that's just par for the course. You have to maximise space. You have to maximise kind of space in the store. That means kind of putting things on shelves all the way down to floor level. And what you'll tend to find is the more expensive things, or the more popular things, or the things that they are promoting at that particular time, or the new things, will all be kind of, or should be, all at eye level. That's what you see. And the stuff a bit lower down, the stuff that's maybe a bit lower down, it will be the things that either just sells regularly anyway, so people go looking for them. There's a kind of like, there's a science, and there's a kind of a real what's the word I'm looking for? Like no, I forget what I'm trying to think of. But there's a science basically to kind of the layout of things. Your eye line is always sort of drawn to roughly kind of, you always look there first. That's where you'll look for stuff. If there's something that sells pretty regular, it'll generally be a bit lower down, and maybe that's the reason why the books are all lower down, mate. Tony says, you always have standing invitation to come down to our store. I'll definitely, I mean, it's not like you're miles away, mate. Like down in Leeds, I 100% have to come down to Leotis at some point. Tom Ryan, hello, how are you doing, Tom? He said he's blessed by having a ton of solid stores in New England. There's a bit of a lack of it in the UK. It's one of the reasons why we struggle to get, when people are trying to run events and tournaments and stuff, anything probably over 24 people, there's not that many places to kind of hold them. So that's when people start hiring out kind of church halls and that type of stuff. There's a few locations, places like Element Games in Stockport, places like Firestorm Games, but there's not too many can kind of hold more than kind of than that, because it needs to be a pretty big place to have more than 20 tables in, really, to be fair. Let's have a little look here. Where was that one? Just skipped off my page there. Let's have a little look. Well, that jumped right the way down. let me find it. Let me find it. Where are we up to? Here we are, found it again. Johnson, yeah, £5 per person. After 4 visits, it's £10 off store. That's what it is, mate. I knew I'd remember somebody tell me about what it was locally. Christian sharing the link there for the BlackJack merch, such as this awesome hoodie. Thank you very much, mate. Chat Hunter says, D20 Board Game Cafe do board game days where random people can turn up on Tuesdays and play with other people. Yeah, the local gaming cafe in town, they do one on a Saturday, I think every few weeks, where it's just a gaming night and like you can turn up on your own and they'll kind of pair people up on the evening, which is quite nice. Lord Maiden says, BlackJack is secretly the Riviera kid from Red Dwarf. I don't think I've seen that episode. Marcus says, don't forget to drop a like. Yes, we've got 85 people in at the minute. We had over 90 before, and we've only got 44 likes. I'm sure we can squeeze a few more likes out of you. Chaff Hunter says, great stuff, very knowledgeable about games and great at recommending games to play. Let me try and catch up a little bit with the chat, because we're coming to 10 o'clock. We don't want to chat about this constantly all night. Let's have a little look. Kath saying, an ideal game shop is an independent pub with an inexpensive home cooking kitchen. That sounds pretty good to me as well. Dave Mackay, hello, mate. So they used to go to the Dice Cup in Nottingham. I've heard of that, mate. He says they've changed their menu to vegan only. I didn't realise that, mate. That's quite a bold move, I suppose. Vijay says, my favourite brewery up where I used to live had "Don't be a dick" up on the big chalkboard. It was the only rule. If anyone got close, people would just point at it. Thomas says, we had a pub/game store, but COVID shut it down permanently. I've seen a few, like I think down in London, there's a pub that's a gaming pub, but it's like video games and stuff like that, which I find it's interesting that those kind of things can exist. I'd like to see more kind of social spaces being there for gaming. Tom says, I've played at a brewery, but it was way too loud. There is that as well, isn't there, mind? Kind of like the noise aspect. Tony says, having an online shop and good use of social media are definitely a big help, and we're essential to us over the last 18 months. Yeah, I can imagine, mate. Tizzy Brindrin says, what I look for is good customer service, selection of stuff being sold. I think one thing we've not really touched on is they do need to have good stock, because at the end of the day, if you ask for something and they say, oh, we don't have it, but we can order it in for you, then generally what happens is you go, well, I can order it from anywhere type thing, unless it's like a local shop that you're supporting. But in order to build up some kind of customer retention, if you like, I think people expect stuff like people like Amazon have kind of made everybody think we need everything the same day or we need everything tomorrow kind of thing, and people aren't as willing to wait too long for stuff now. So I think, unfortunately, good stock levels is something that a lot of stores don't have. And unfortunately, when you're first starting out, you can't afford to sink money into stock. So what happens is you order something, and then the shop orders something to kind of come from the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer says, "Oh, we haven't got it. Like, it's going to take ages," and that's where the whole thing falls down. I think, like, I know from chatting to folks in these streams, the amount of times they say, "Oh, I'm sick of those shops that basically say they've got it in stock, but they haven't," and when you order it, they order it, kind of thing. So I think, unfortunately, stock levels is something as well that we also kind of take for granted. Greg says, I'm out arcade game store owner, was so bitter about Kickstarter and Amazon he was jaded just to be a crappy owner. Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like that. I think they basically, rather than looking to see what they can offer to be a point of difference, I think they like to just kind of point the finger at everybody else who's kind of ground them into the ground, if you like. Cassius, Forbidden Planet still exists. Cool. I've been living in the countryside too long. It's quite big, Forbidden Planet. It's still a big concern. Ed says his local GW's improved massively over the last 5 years after a couple of really bad managers. Yeah, I think years ago, I think what's changed is the managers these days are good managers first and hobbyists second. Where I think in the past they were kind of maybe gatekeepery type hobbyists, if you like, and happened to manage a store. Unfortunately, not the case for everyone. Tizzy Brain Drain says, yeah, good customer service should be a given, but sadly it isn't. The thing is it's not in any line of work. How many kind of poor clothes shops have you been into? How many poor record stores have you been to, or electrical stores? It's not limited to that. He says, the biggest gaming store here in Lafayette has terrible service, and myself and a few others no longer shop there. That's the way to deal with it, to be fair. Just don't give them your money if that's the case. Jonathan, hello mate. He says, Beanie Games in Stockton has all sorts of games every Saturday, from cards to tabletop and all places between. Beanie Games has been going for quite a while now, mate. I've been a couple of times and it's a good store. Kath says, BlackJack Brewery, Bacon Sarnies, bar and gaming could work. Might take me a few quid to get it started, that's for sure. Chav Hunter says, it's a great place to find board games and RPG groups is Meetup. A lot of stores have groups based on Meetup, so can find them and put them down. I think Facebook, social media, that kind of stuff is a great place for stores to kind of to show what's happening in their place, to show, like, to advertise their community nights, to advertise sort of like, for example, it's quite hard to go online and find a gaming store that has pictures of its gaming space. Like, for example, Bad Moon Cafe, their website does not show how nice their place is randomly. Yeah, Tom saying management makes the store. I think it definitely does, mate, yeah. Ed saying we have 2 big 20 to 30 player a night RPG clubs and 3 wargame clubs that often have RPGs on here too. Peterborough is basically a market town with delusions of grandeur. Mark says in my town RPG groups can spend as much while at the store as tabletop gamers. Dice and minis. Several people even paid the store to get better terrain, and that belongs to the store. Tom saying owners of game stores can get burned out and not realise how bad their stores become. I think anybody that works for themselves, runs their own business, can feel a bit demoralising, can get run to the ground. And that's why basically if you've got a gaming store that you want to see keeping open, like, supported, and kind of even just a thank you kind of to the owner goes a long way, so that they realise that they're part of that local community. John says, yes, we used to have tournaments at Maelstrom when I lived in Nottingham. Great place while it lasted. Yes, indeed, mate. Yeah, we often used to call down there on our way down to Birmingham for the UK Masters. Bobby says, I find stores able to support charity events like the 40 hours of 40k I'm part of gain a great rep from word of mouth. I think it definitely does, mate. I think it's like if you can kind of support that community, be it an online community or like through charity events, through supporting sort of gaming events and things like that, just getting a word of mouth out there that actually, like, your store's kind of like their heart's in the right place, you know, they're trying to support the gaming community. I think it goes a long way. Colin saying Mansfield's his neck of the woods. Loretta, hello there, says, ignore the name on this account. It's me, John. Oh, forced to use my wife's old phone as my tablet dial last week. Hello, John, how you doing? James is saying, yeah, pay where you play. Absolutely. If you kind of go to a gaming store and you appreciate it, I mean, if the store's not particularly very nice and you don't want to give them your money, then that's a different kettle of fish. But if that's the only place you play and you want it to stay open, make sure you kind of support them. Dave said he used to do D&D in a small pub in Nottingham. We spent plenty of money when we were there as more of a social night. I think that's a bit different when it is that kind of social event. Let me skip ahead a little bit here as well. Ed saying, even not focusing on negative Kickstarter is a real issue for local gaming stores. So few have a decent retailer option, and even then, unless you know people will buy from you, not the Kickstarter. I think the problem with Kickstarter, mate, is it affects quite a small portion of the board gaming buy-in public. Like for example, there are shops like, let's say, Travelling Man, for example, generally cater to people who buy board games, but they don't really cater to the Kickstarter buyer, if you like. And I think it's easy to say that Kickstarter's killed local gaming stores, but I think I think the vast majority of sort of buyers of board games aren't necessarily Kickstarter buyers, and especially at the minute now as well with all the kind of shipping issues and stuff. Thompson, interested in your view of the new Wild West Exodus? It just arrived today. I've just been before I came on the stream tonight. I was just having a little look through the new 3rd edition rule book. I've not had a chance to kind of absorb everything yet, but yeah, I'll be. Oh, Siri there deciding he wants to talk. I'll be giving my views as soon as I can. VJ says he speaks from 20 years experience. I imagine running a gaming store is similar. Yeah. Cool. So yes, I wanted to also catch up on a little bit of news and stuff as well, some stuff. So what we did get tonight, as he presses this one, is a bit of news from Games Workshop about more Warcry stuff coming. So it says this new Warcry fighter loves spiders so much he's made one into a horrifying mask. So Red Harvest appears to be the new box release for Warcry from Games Workshop, coming soon. It says here, as the dead center of Archon's Chaos Realms, the 8 Points is a grim and grisly place of constant war and no small amount of crying. All this is encapsulated in Warcry, the fast, thrilling game of skirmish combat between gangs of eccentric ne'er-do-wells. It says last month we started hearing whispers of a demonic menace lurking in the war-torn wastes. As the ominous-sounding Red Harvest approaches, there's a new horror in town. And what we saw today was this video which shows us a new model coming for Warcry. We don't know. What I will say is, if I pause this, is it looks like new terrain. I've never seen this terrain before. Somebody might tell me otherwise, but you can see here it looks very kind of sort of burnt wood. It's certainly, given the images in the background, it appears to be kind of building on the back of catacombs, possibly. It looks kind of a little bit more underground, but who knows. This is definitely kind of new terrain, this stuff at the side here as well. And as it plays on, we'll let it play a little bit more here. We've got this new character here that's coming, and I'll show you some better pictures of it. This is just kind of sort of the video playing, but this is a kind of like a Chaos Spider's head that's been chopped off and used as a mask here. And as you can see here, the person in the video happens to have 4 arms and 2 legs. So it's this is some new model for Warcry. It says weave the hateful web and find out more soon. And what it says is meet the Broodmaster. So yeah, you can see here as well, there's loads of spiders all over the back. Now there was something here which I thought this bit here was, so it says our agents are crawling their way through the 8 Points on the hunt for more clues about Warcry Red Harvest. We will bring you the full scoop on what's on the way for Warcry later this month, including more on the Broodmaster, the rest of his brood, which would be the rest of his the faction, if you like, the war band, and who they'll be battling, which suggests that it's going to be part of a new box set. So maybe some new terrain, which we saw in the video there, and then this particular faction alongside another one. As for the model, I'm not a huge fan of the model personally. I think it's nicely sculpted, but it's not up there in my favourite of the war bands. But it's nice, and it's nice to see some new news coming for Warcry as well. And then what else we've had this month? So Wild West Exodus, we just been briefly talking about there. The Showdown at Retribution set is up for pre-order at the moment. I'll be taking a look at it. You can see it on the shelf behind me. I'll be taking a look at it very soon. And these are the models that are included, but I'll let you check them out. The thing I want to talk about tonight is this new Retribution Town MDF set, and I really like the War Cradle scenic stuff. This is exactly how it comes. It comes this color when you build it. This is how it'll look. You don't necessarily have to paint it, and I think there's some really nice some bits and pieces in there. Now you can pre-order this set. It's £100. You might think that's quite a lot of money, but for all of this terrain, I don't think it's too bad. But yeah, I must admit I'm super tempted to add this to the collection. You can see here you get the theatre, which looks really nice. I don't know what this is. It's just some kind of Union building, I think it is. Again, looks nice. We've got like a Union Station there with a bit of train tracks as well. And then there's basically one of the kind of like the houses or the buildings as well. But yeah, and you also get this kind of like windmill type thing. And I'm a big fan of this War Cradle stuff. I've done a video in the past showing the War Cradle MDF Scenics range, and I've said it's probably the best MDF scenery I've seen. I'm not a huge fan of MDF scenery in general, but I must admit this is one set. The stuff that War Cradle do is definitely one range or a set that I'm quite impressed with. So it comes with a theatre, the station, a residence, the barracks, and the windmill, and it comes in this pre-coloured MDF. So yeah, so that's something to watch out for. And the other thing is the Global Gunslinger League that is coming from On Tabletop as well. So in conjunction with the launch of that new set, the guys over at On Tabletop are doing this Global Gunslinger League where you can basically join in and build up your models and kind of paint along, build along, and learn to play with them. Now I've been chatting to the folks at On Tabletop, and I'm going to be doing something with them on this. So yeah, keep watching for it. I'll have more news when there's more news to share. But if you are thinking about picking up that set, or you're thinking about dipping your toe into Wild West Exodus, then watch this space. So yes, news coming soon, I think, when it comes to that. Let me get my chat back. Excuse me. Where were we up to here? Glenn says, terrain definitely looks new. Yeah, I thought the terrain looked new as well, mate. I don't remember seeing that for Warcry or for any of the AOS stuff. VG says it looks like a pain in the arse to paint. All terrain's a pain in the arse to paint, mate. Dave's saying it looks a bit stunned. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the model itself. I'll need to see what the rest of the kind of the war band's like and things. I've missed having some new information about Warcry, I'll be honest, but be interesting to see what they do. I'm assuming it's going to be a bit like Catacombs in terms of it'll add something new, maybe a new place to play, progress the story a little bit, no doubt throw a few little extra rules or something in as well. Krabby, how are you doing, mate? Nice to see you, long time no speak. Jill saying, why does it always have to be spiders? Jess says, the hateful web. It's fairly good description for more noisy GW bits of social media. You're not wrong, mate. I wonder if they've thought about that as well. John saying, that Western set makes me want to get a Western skirmish rule set. The Western set looks really cool. I've got some of the Red Oak stuff, and that's pretty good as well. But I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind the little Retribution set, I'll be honest. I did put it in my basket today to pre-order, and I was thinking, do I want it? Do I really need it? I've got my 3D printer. I was looking at the price of the 3D files that Corvus Games do, and they're really reasonable. But like they're roughly about somewhere between £8 to £10 each. And if I was going to buy like maybe 3 or 4 of those files, and then by the time I pay for the plastic to print them and the time it'll take, I was thinking, this stuff I don't even have to paint it really. It's kind of pre-coloured. It's probably not that much more expensive in a combination of time and money to kind of just to pre-order that full set for £100. So yeah, I must admit it was in my basket today with a possible pre-order on it. Bliss says some of those should go with Dunsmouth and some with Rio Sonora. It's interesting if you've not seen if you've not listened to the Markov Dossier podcast, who do a lot of Wild West Exodus and War Cradle stuff. They were chatting to the guys from War Cradle, and they were talking about this terrain set. And obviously Red Oak's kind of like a western frontier town type thing, but Retribution, which is where this kind of story is set, is a little bit more industrial, if you like. So it's nice to have those different sets to have different settings. Not everything needs to look like kind of gunfight at the OK Corral kind of thing down the high street. Christian sharing the link there for Amazon as well. Thank you very much, Christian. Tony saying, yeah, new War Cradle terrain's beautiful, very innovative. I love it, mate. Rosa's Creative Works. Good evening, Rosa's. Says, interesting. Krabby says, decent set that. Really like the idea of the pre-painted stuff. It's kind of pre-coloured MDF. So you can paint it if you want to, but it doesn't need to be really to get it on the table quickly. Tom says, as an American, I find the War Cradle version of The North very funny. I think it's actually, the thing is that the story of it has come from Americans. They wrote the original story, to be fair. Peter saying, looks lovely. Greg Cherry says, Black Site MDF is my Bruno. I've not... I must admit, I've not. I don't think I've seen that stuff. Jill says, "Are Wild West Exodus rules online?" They are, Jill. The current rules that are online are obviously the current system. The one that I've just been sent out, these are the new ones. These haven't been released yet, but these will be free online as well. Jill says, "Cool, two fab YouTube channels working together. Nice one, thank you, mate." Yeah, I've had a couple of kind of sort of video chats about sort of potentially doing some stuff together. So it might be what the kind of conversations we've had is like, obviously I'll be doing some stuff with this War Cradle set anyway. I'm sure everyone knows that On Tabletop are now owned by Wayland Games and by War Cradle. And so the idea is maybe one of the kind of the weekenders, or when they're doing videos about the kind of the Global Gunslinger League, I'll probably be involved in the odd one of those or something like that. So yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to pan out at the minute, but we've had preliminary conversations, shall we say. John said, most of his terrain is scratch built from junk mostly. I get a lot of PVA and sand and model bits. I'm not a scratch builder, I must admit. It's the reason I bought a 3D printer, really, and I'm loving what the 3D printer's doing. But I must admit, it is quite time consuming, and I'm already in the middle of printing something on my printer for a bit of a long-term project. So if I stop doing that to start printing off Wild West stuff, it's kind of interrupting that project. That's what I mean. That combination of time and money kind of it sometimes works out actually that it's not that far apart. Tom says, I get the impression the Wild West Exodus terrain looks good without paint. Yeah, it looks great. I've got some of the Dunsmouth stuff which is pre-painted, and it looks great. I was quite impressed actually. Night Haunter says, when are we going to see you and Bobby Berman play some sweet Dead Zone? I don't think you're going to see me and Rob play some Dead Zone, to be fair. However, that doesn't mean that Rob and I won't have been filming. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Dominic, good evening to you. Dom, how you doing, mate? Sundered Sykes says, you moved the helmets out of the boxes behind you. I did, mate. I was filming an interview last week, and I put some game boxes up here, and I just when I came to replace them today, I had to replace them to put something else in them while I was filming it today, and then for tonight I basically just switched them over. That was all. Jill says, love the look of it, but just buy a single war band to paint. Yes. Somberland says, evening, the spider guy's not my cup of tea, but I'm looking forward to the terrain. Yeah, it looks like a box like Catacombs. Yeah, not my cup of tea either, I don't think. Dave says, if you're struggling for time, the coloured MDF sounds great. I think they just go together really well. They've got loads of texture to them. They don't look like the really kind of flat sort of like piece of MDF that you then have to worry about sort of texture and stuff. There's loads of kind of engraving on them, like wood panels and things like that. And with them being coloured, it just gives it a little bit of something. Krabby says, first time I've had the opportunity to be in a live chat for a while, mate. Nice to see you, mate. I hope you're doing well. Johnson, the set reminded me of the paper Western Town set that came in a book form that you punched and folded out. Yeah, these are definitely not made of paper anyway. Tom saying the Black Site MDF is amazing. I'll have to check it out, mate. I've not even heard of it. Christian saying, time for bed. Take care, mate. Have a good week as well. Glenn saying, I didn't know they were owned by Wayland Games. Yeah, Wayland Games owns War Cradle Studios, and Wayland Games also bought On Tabletop in October last year. Greg says, my bueno is Spanish for very good. Yeah, I assumed it was, mate. John said, I must admit 3D printers are the way of the future. Sometime down the line I could see myself eventually getting one. I've been really impressed with mine. We had a brief chat in the Patreon chat the other day about it when one of the lads has just bought one, and I honestly, like, I've just used out of the box settings. Like it came, I put it together, I've loaded a file in, I've pressed print, and like it's in from then it's been absolutely fine. I've never really had any issues. Every time I print something, I take it off the bed, I clean the bed down, I put the bed back on, and I press print again, and away it goes. And it's literally been printing day and night, non-stop, for about 3 or 4 weeks now, on this project that I'm doing with this. I've mentioned it before on the stream, the Marvel Crisis Protocol board that I'm making with the kind of like the New York subway section. It's just printing away, and to be honest, it's not, touch wood, it's never put a foot wrong. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting that all printed, and then I can start to film that bits and pieces. It's going to be a nice little project video, that I think. Tony says, I love the Dunsmouth Ranger scenery. I've been having a Cthulhu inspiration recently, and I've been doing a bit of Cthulhu influenced hobbying. I'll move on to something else at some point. Dave says, you must have a room of prints. How are you dealing with the storage issue? I basically, mate, I've got sort of boxes to put stuff in. Really, I've got shelves. The whole point of being in this kind of studio and stuff, and the way I've got it set up, is that I've got space to store sort of terrain and things like that. That was always meant to be the plan of coming in here. It was the reason that I came down here from the spare room that I was using upstairs, because the spare room I had, by the time I put a 6x4 table in the middle of it, and then kind of had space for the camera in front of the table, I didn't have space for storage or anything else. So being down here in the studio space, I've got loads of space for storing terrain and storing games and storing minis and stuff, mate. Tom says, I bought some Dunsmouth stuff for a Batman Pulp Alley game. It's in the queue. Yeah, it would work well for that, mate. Yeah. Tavinda says, boxes and plastic tubs for the prints are awesome. They do fill up fast. Mine have been going non-stop with one-page rules models, the Tomb Kings. Yeah, they're quite nice, the Tomb King stuff, mate. Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends. It depends what you're printing stuff for. If you're just printing because you're excited to 3D print stuff, you will start to just fill up spaces very quickly if you're not going to use them. But the whole point of mine was that when I'm working, like if I'm filming something, if I'm kind of painting something, if I'm editing videos, if I'm live streaming, I obviously can't be doing something else at the same time. Where when it comes to 3D printing, I press play, I press print on it, and I just leave it. So like it's printing now in the other room at the minute behind me. And it means that when this stream's finished, I'll take it off the print bed, I'll put something else on, I'll set it away overnight. So I'm basically creating terrain for the channel, like in dead time, really, while I'm not physically doing anything. So I'm like kind of looking over there, and I've got a few different bits of buildings and bits and pieces and stuff like that of things I've been doing. I'm pretty sure I've shown this before. I'll go and grab one of the big pieces I printed, and I'll let you see it. So, for example, folks, this is one of the first bits that I printed off when I was first. Let me have a look. Here we go. This was one of the first buildings that I printed. So this is a big kind of fantasy, a big fantasy house. You can see here, it's this is all painted now as well. So this is all 3D printed. She got a bit of dust, bit of cobweb on that one, so you can kind of see it all the way around there. So that's and then obviously this comes apart as well, so you can obviously take the roof off. Let me put that down somewhere so I don't break it. And then you can see inside the rooms as well, and then this one lifts off as well, and you can get down into the lower parts. And then there's obviously like things like the. And then what I did was for some of the things, like the little door here, in order to get some nice detail on the door, I printed that one with a resin printer. So the doors are made of resin, and the buildings are made of plastic. But yeah, it's largely just kind of spray cans, bit of dry brushing. I mean, it took some time to print this thing, so I mean, it's not fast. But I mean, you can see there, that's the roof with the tiles and stuff like that. There's some nice bits to it and things. The chimneys on the back. So yeah, so this is all 3D printed. So that's the kind of things I'm printing. I mean, this is perfect for things like Moonstone. It works for Malifaux. It works for things like sort of Kings of War, like Vanguard. So I've got these kind of fantasy buildings that I've obviously been printing. And then what else have I got there? Let me grab. I think I showed the West building. Hang on, we'll get that one. So there's this one as well. So this is one that I was printing. Again, this one will work for Malifaux. It'll work for Wild West Exodus. We've got these kind of Western buildings. These are the ones. This one's from Corvus Games, and I was looking to kind of print something like that out. But I was thinking by the time I kind of buy the files, print the files, like all of that adds up, I might be better off just getting the actual MDF terrain stuff. And I've been printing things out for Marvel Crisis Protocol as well, kind of like sort of coffee shops and buildings and things as well. Dave says that's so nice. Yeah, everyone says nice, fair play, it's well nice. Tom saying wow makes me miss Mordheim. The building looked great. Dave says always think they should do the walls differently. My fat hands would never be able to move models around in there. I think, to be honest with you, I tend not to play inside the buildings. I just wanted it to look nice on the table, like just to have a few kind of like a centerpiece, and then have a few like I've got some like smaller buildings that I've been printing and stuff as well. Jason says looks pretty good. Mark said I need a printer. I mean, the printer that I use to print this off, so all like this, for example, this building was printed off on a printer that cost me £150. The plastic is about, depending on when it's on sale and stuff, between £11 a kilo and about £18 a kilo. And there's probably maybe one reel in there, something like that. Maybe one reel. So if you sort of yeah. Dave saying Neptune 2 by any chance? It is a Neptune 2, mate. That is what I got. I just bought it from Amazon, mate, when they were first came out. They're quite tough to get a hold of now, the original Neptune 2s, because there's a newer version which kind of prints where you can use two different colours of PLA plastic. So it's more expensive. It's like 200 quid, that one. But I must admit, recently I have been considering buying a second one purely to speed up the process, because it's efficient, but it's just not that fast. That's all. But it's not like if I bought a more expensive printer, it would be any faster. It's just the time it takes to kind of to put the layers of plastic down, really. Tony says it's such a beautiful building. I've loved seeing this come along. Shame on you for not showing this painted up beauty. Sorry, mate. I've got loads of bits and pieces like that. I've got like sort of things that I've just not got round to showing off yet, because I've not got the opponents to play the games yet, and I haven't got like full tables worth of terrain. I'm kind of always working on bits and pieces, so I'm kind of constantly working on that type of stuff. But yeah, when I do the what's it called, the underground, the subway, when I do the subway sort of building, the whole thing, because this is basically a 3 foot by 3 foot table, all 3D printed with subway trains and kind of escalators and all of the kind of flooring sections and the railway tracks and everything. It's all been printed off. I'm probably about 3 days away from getting all of the kind of like the full 3x3 board, and then I'll spend the next few weeks printing off things like the escalators, the side walls, pillars and that type of stuff. It'll look great when it's all done. I can't wait to show it off. But I'll kind of talk about the 3D printing process a little bit more there as well. But yeah, it's amazing what it can do. Dave Mackay says we need a Patreon tour of the buildings. Absolutely, mate. I will do that. If Patreons want to see that, I'll do that. Glenn says I'd like to see a Marvel terrain in the future. Yeah, no worries at all, mate. At some point, mate, I'll be doing some Marvel stuff. So yeah, we'll see that. Jacob says Andy will have an army of printers running 24/7. Like I say, it's pretty quiet. It doesn't kind of make too much noise. It's in the garage here. It basically just kind of pretty much just runs day and night, and yeah, it's been really efficient, like I say. How are we doing? 70. I tell you what. Let me very quickly. I'll grab one of the Marvel buildings because it's in the next room. So give me a second. I'll be right back. Right, I'm back. So this is the one that I've just started painting. So this is one of the smaller buildings. This is kind of like a newsstand type thing, or like a little kind of food place. Roof's just come off as well, so that will just pop onto there. And I've still got to print off like a little sign for the front of it. But that's one of the just kind of the smaller buildings. And then I've got this building as well, which is like meant to be like a Starbucks kind of like coffee shop type thing called Apollo's. And again, this comes apart as well. Let me just doing that from the back there. That's it. So yeah, so you can kind of see there as well. So I've just zenithal primed this, kind of ready for printing and stuff. But yeah, so these side pieces, these awnings, I printed on my resin printer, so you get them nice and detailed, and you don't get the kind of the layer lines in them and stuff like that. But the signs and everything else, that's all plastic PLA printed. So yeah, they just need a bit of paint on them really to get round to it. Dave says, I printed a widget to hold a shower door closed, 30 minutes with rubbery PLA. I mean, some of these stuff, the roof on that building, that one, was in 3 pieces, I think, and one of those pieces took 18 hours to print. So it's not fast by any stretch of the imagination, but it is dead time. It's time that I'm not having to do anything with it. I literally print and walk away and leave it, kind of thing. Jess is saying, cool there. Yeah, Dave says your prints are very clean. Like I say, mate, it's just I just use the out of the box settings. I've not tried to fine tune anything. I've not spent time like searching online, saying how do I improve this? How do I speed it up? How do I make nicer prints or whatever? I've literally just kind of sort of done out of the box stuff. Yeah, Blizzard says Apollo and Starbucks. Yeah, that's why it's called Apollo. Obviously, it's meant to be Starbucks. Somebody asking about what Mark was saying. Can you print good-looking trees? I need trees for my moonstone table. Good looking, I suppose, is probably a kind of a matter of opinion, really. But there are some trees that I'm trying to remember now. There's a company that does like plastic trees, which are kind of like a cup that basically like sit over the trunk. If I can remember, I'm trying to remember the name of the company that does them now. Are they called Monster something? I think Tiny War Games sell some stuff. I'm here we go. I'm looking on their website at the minute about terrain, because I think they might sell that range. Excuse me. I think it's these ones. Monster Fight, they're called. So it's not the greatest of pictures, to be fair. In fact, it looks tiny on your screen. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me go back. I'll see if I can find a better picture of it, because they call Monster Fight. Because I've seen a 3D print for these kind of things, so they look a bit like. Here we go, like this kind of stuff. Again, they're not. What is it with people in tiny little pictures? Like that kind of stuff where this canopy over the top is kind of 3D printed, and then a trunk is 3D printed as well. So you can get some quite nice ones, to be fair. I need to find some myself, really, just to put on my Marvel board and stuff like that. I've got like I've been making a board which is like kind of like the main streets and stuff, where things like this coffee shop and stuff will go, and the trees are nice just to kind of like break up some of the areas. So yeah, it's you can get them, that's for sure. John said, I would suggest visiting a model railroad shop for good, looming, inexpensive trees. I think it's just getting the right scales, isn't it? Mark says, yeah, tried making them, but might have to buy. Tony says, agree. Yeah, Kathy Miller does some excellent ones. Yeah, everyone's saying Monster Fight Club. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, those are the ones I was thinking about. David's saying, wish I had more time to create 3D models, but work keeps getting in the way. I've done some bits of sculpting, like I've made like sort of objective tokens with a BlackJack Legacy logo in. I've made some bases and things like that, but I haven't really kind of gone overboard. I haven't spent a lot of time kind of doing any of the sculpting work here. Yeah, Mark saying that looks fine. Yeah, And Jill saying off to bed. Good night all. And night James as well. Good night you two. And look, John there saying some plastic aquarium plants are good material for trees. Right, folks, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I think we're going to call it a night because I've been pretty much working for about, what time is it now? Yeah, I've been on the go for about 16 hours or something like that. So I'm flagging a bit now. So I think we'll call it a night. I will be around on Wednesday. We've got more videos coming this week. I should have the interview that I did with Weird Games last week. I should have that up this week. I filmed another interview today, so I should have that up soon. I've got another interview I'm filming tomorrow afternoon. So there's plenty of stuff coming. We'll have the unboxings / kind of thoughts about the new Wild West Exodus set. So yeah, plenty of stuff on the go. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed, please do consider subscribing to the channel. If you would like to support me, keep being able to make this my full-time job and kind of supply you with all of the stuff that nobody else chats about, then please do consider checking out the Patreon. And otherwise, thank you for your support, and I'll see you Wednesday. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.